So hello everyone. We are so happy to have you today. I'm so happy to have you, Barry. It's always a pleasure to have you and to discuss about innovation in the fashion industry. I think it's now several years that we work together around innovation, AI in the fashion industry, and really like to have your thoughts about how AI and innovation change the fashion industry, and that's the goal today to talk about how fashion and where are we with the fashion and AI today. So maybe you can maybe start to introduce yourself and introduce myself after, and we can start this discussion about AI in the fashion industry.
Absolutely. It is very good to be here. And you're right, Tony, you and I have worked together on this for many, many years as we started to see the information technology and IT move into the fashion space. Typically, we have really been working on the product that drives our brands, but more and more everything is digital, and we've been learning that for several years, and nothing isn't digital now. So I come from the innovation space. Actually, originally I was in product, running product for North Face and Speedo, brands like that. But I started getting into innovation as I knew that our brands needed to build these competitive edges. So I run innovation for large verticals, multi-brand verticals, most recently at Wolverine, companies like PVH, where I support brands and they will come in and ask for support in what innovation is going to look like on their product and on the digital side. So we started, and I did spend a year at Google working on the digital side as well. So as we start to track the things that are affecting our businesses, the things that are growing our brands, we have to understand technology. So I always tell everybody, I'm not a tech specialist. I don't write code. I'm a tech generalist. And so a lot of people will ask, well, why would I want a generalist? Why don't I want someone who knows everything about it? Because you have other people can write code better than I can. But why you need an innovation, a tech generalist in your life is because what we need to do is give you the context of the things that we need to pay attention to as brands and the things that maybe we don't need to pay attention to right now. So last year, about a year and a half ago, we started hearing about this thing called the metaverse. What is it? What will it mean to us? So, me and my team started really digging deep and understanding what is the technology stack behind it? Is it important? Will it change our businesses? Do we need to pay attention to it? The answer is still yes, and that's a different conversation that we're going to have today. But one of the reasons why it's still yes, it's being fueled by AI, and so AI is the catalyst behind the technology that's growing our businesses. So AI is definitely something that we need to pay attention to, and we can talk about today the ways it's being used in our industry, because everyone says, okay, well, there's this big thing, ChatGPT. Should I play with it? Is it weird? Do I like it? Is it going to change my business? And the main question people ask is, well, what do I do with it? Where do I start? Like, how will I actually use it as a tool? So that's what our conversation is about today.
Yeah, thank you, Barry. So to briefly introduce myself, so I'm a tech expert. I'm now more than around 25 years of experience in technology.
So people like me need people like you.
Yeah, that's the perfect combination, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah, and actually, I've done a PhD in machine learning 15 years ago. And now I am a CEO and co-founder of Heuritech. And at Heuritech, we mix AI for the fashion industry, and we help the brand to quantify what the people wear worldwide, and to be able also to quantify what the people will wear up to 1 year in advance, to help them to anticipate the market shift. And we'll see that after that. But the goal is to now start with a short introduction about AI, to see what is AI, what we can do with AI, and after that, of course, for an overview about the fashion industry, and also to talk about one of the biggest challenges in the fashion industry. So first, an introduction about AI. So the goal, of course, is not to give you all the information about AI, but AI now is everywhere. You use AI almost every day. The goal is to show some concrete use case of how AI can be used. So what we can do with AI, for example, at Heuritech, we use AI to identify objects in images. Okay, you can do that manually, but if you want to do that on million images per day, it's difficult to do that manually. So with AI, you can locate and classify each clothing category on the image to localize, okay, this is a top, this is a human, this is a pants, outerwear. After that, to find more precise characteristic for each element and to combine this element to, at the end, say, okay, this woman wear a woman zebra jacket. With the AI, you can do that automatically on any kind of images. That's just an example. For example, you can also predict the future behavior of a trend. You have a pinstripe, you want to predict the growth of the pinstripe up to 1 year in advance. You will use AI to first localize information on images, and after that, you will use AI to be able to create a forecasting model to predict the upcoming trends and to see, okay, next year, the trend will grow by 7% for the pinstripe. Of course, with ChatGPT, it's a new way to use the AI. You can synthesize information. You can have an assistant to ask any kind of question. For example, I want to create a webinar to explain how AI can help the fashion industry. And you can have directly an agenda to do that. So it's a new way to use the AI to create information, to generate information, to have an assistant that was not possible a year ago. And now everyone is use that. So
Tony, would it be possible to spend a couple of minutes talking about the training model, and not to get too technical, but I think it's really interesting because AI can be a dark art with something that happens under a blanket, and people say, I don't know how that happens. But it's super interesting to hear how Heuritech trains the model to identify what is a leopard spot or what is a plaid skirt, and I find it fascinating. So I'd love a couple of minutes from you on that one, if everybody else would.
Yeah, you're right. And maybe also, if you have some question, don't hesitate to ask some question on the chat. We will be happy to answer that at the end of the presentation. The goal is to have an interactive discussion, so don't hesitate. So yeah, what is key for AI and machine learning is to have data and to train a model to recognize some element. For example, if I put on these pictures, the goal is to, train to learn, to help the AI to learn to recognize a specific element. So an AI model needs to have some example for a specific category. You want to train an algorithm to recognize a pants, you need to have several examples of a pants to help the model, so that the model can extract automatically some features to recognize pants in any kind of context. So you have some data to train the model, and you have also some data to evaluate the model after that. So you need to have different examples. The model will train and will learn to recognize a pants. A pants is like that, and you will evaluate the model on other data to be sure that this AI can recognize that. We use
this is human reinforced in the beginning, right? You have to train the model that yes, this is, and no, this isn't.
Yeah, exactly. For the AI is powerful if you have a human at first to help them to recognize specific element. You need to have human in the loop to train a model first. Yeah, to explain what is a top, what is a pants, what is some element like that. Yeah.
I'd love to jump in for a second because I'm sure that a lot of people that are on the call, they do understand AI pretty well. But as again, as a tech generalist, as I went in to understand this, what I found was that obviously AI has been around for a while, since 1938, Alan Turing, right? Um, and I think what was really an aha moment for me is when I understood that when we're doing these training models, that have been trying to think in a way of like of a neural network, right? The way our minds are wired. So what is the next logical word? And so like a big example that I've seen before is when you're thinking about a phrase like the quick brown fox. What does the quick brown fox do? It jumps. And then when the model gets to the word jump, then you say that's a good answer, like ones and zeros, right? So that's a good answer. Do more of that. And then we go, the quick brown fox jumps what? Over. Okay, good dog, bad dog, right? So we're teaching the model good dog, bad dog. One of the things that was really an aha moment for me was that is very slow. But what we've done is we've been able to speed that process up by not necessarily looking for the next logical word, but the next logical thought. And that's where the pre-training comes in. So for those of you guys that have not pulled it apart, GPT-3 is general pre-trained transformer. That pre-training is where we actually train the model to jump to the next logical conclusion. And that's how AI can start to work really, really fast. So there's the human reinforced learning part, and that's what we would call Rolfing, right? And then that gets into the specification where people like Heuritech can train models to go faster and faster and faster to be more efficient. That's kind of the squirrels in the engine of the conversation. But I always think it's fun to think about that.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, we can spend a lot of time to explain. It's very interesting part, and things are evolving very fast on AI. But yes, and what are the common features of all this use is actually artificial intelligence make it possible to automate any kind of repetitive intellectual task. For example, you want to sort documents, you want to classify documents, you want, as I said earlier, identify some element in images. But AI can also help with decision making, to forecast trends, to also be able to synthesize information, or also create recommendation. It's important to see that actually AI can be used almost everywhere, and we will see that directly on the fashion industry more precisely. So I give you the floor to explain how to have an overview about AI in the fashion industry first.
Absolutely. Yep. You have the clicker. There we go. So look, I put together a couple of things that kind of context what's happening with us in the industry, because obviously this is the big topic of the day. Everyone's talking about it. But we're starting to see some data and statistics that are coming into our industry specifically. McKinsey does a really good job in looking at multiple industries, and ours in particular. They did a great one on AI in March, where they were putting forward that they thought that AI would be adding between $275 and $350 million into our industry by 2027. So then they're $1 billion rather. They're trying to really forecast what that's going to look and feel like. But the most recent report that they put out was in just last month, or month before last, in August, and it was the state of generative AI, where they're asking industries, how are you using it and at what velocity? What's super interesting is that if you look at any organization, 60% of anyone on this call, your organization is already using AI in some way. That's super, super interesting. And 30% of the people in your organization are already using it. So it's a kind of a little bit of an unregulated space, because you don't really know how people are using it, but we're starting to get some ideas. So when we ask larger companies that are already using AI, what are you using it for? And the two things that people talk about is revenue creation and cost efficiency. So in the main areas of use case for AI in industries that are using it right now, it's for manufacturing, marketing, and risk management. That actually makes a lot of sense, because I want AI to make sure that someone's not going to steal my credit card, right? Authentication, things like that. So we're starting to see that a lot more. And these are industries that are actually self-reporting, right? For cost efficiencies, people are looking at it for service operations and manufacturing. So, and we think about like AI chat, those kinds of things that are working their way into our industry, and that makes a lot of sense. So this is a really great report. I would actually recommend that you go in and look at the state of generative AI on McKinsey. But some really, really interesting things are starting to happen. New York Times just recently reported just a couple of weeks ago that they're figuring out that that AI will add 4.4 trillion to the global GDP by 2030 annually. So it's going to add efficiency and new product creation at a staggering rate. $4.4 trillion is a tremendous amount of money. But we're also looking at some reporting on how AI is being used, especially since the launch of GPT-3 in the beginning of the year, and now GPT-4. And if you look at it at about a 31% rate, the primary use case for AI is actually not chatbots, it's actually programming. And that's very, very interesting because I'm going to go back to the thing that I said before, which is we are in the business of fashion and apparel and accessories and footwear, but nothing isn't digital now. And so we're strongly connected to Silicon Valley because if the main use of AI is programming, that means code is going to go faster. People will code faster. People will give us SaaS solutions faster. And the things that will accelerate our business are going to come at us more and more quickly. So whereas before we might have thought that the Magic Show was the show to go to, and now probably the show to go to in January is probably going to be the National Retail Federation, NRF, because we're going to see the technology that's moving our business forward. And that's the next couple of slides. I'll talk about that. So we can start at the back part. So when we think about the beginning of our journey, the supply chain is going to be really affected by AI. There's a lot that's happening on legislation, which we can talk about in a minute, around European Extended Producer Responsibility Act, what's happening with California with CA 256 and 253 and SB 256 and SB 237 that are going to ask for us to be more responsible for our products. So a couple companies that are doing a really good job are companies like Eon ID here in New York, that are adding, and Avery Dennison also is doing a great job using GPT-3 in partnership with a product they call Atmo to add digital passporting onto product. Now we're going to be asked to put digital passports because of making sure that we can talk about where our product is made, responsible sourcing, ESG, end of life. These are going to be really important, and AI is going to play a big part of being able to learn and grow to be able to do this quickly with a tremendous amount of data that's coming through. Where's our product? Where was it made? And what will we do with it at end of life? What that's going to mean is that we are going to be, because we'll already have a trigger on our products, we'll have RFID, QR codes, easy triggers. When you touch your phone to your product to make sure that it's got all these good things going for it and that's compliant, we'll also be able to add on a visual layer on top of it and an experiential layer. And that experiential layer will be able to allow brands to be able to have a one-on-one experience with their end customers and their consumers. So we can start to have this digital layer do things like drive revenue, boost search, and optimize merchandising. And there are companies out there already. So I mentioned the NRF, right? There are companies out there that are using AI to be able to take advantage of that digital layer to improve the consumer experience that we're having with our product and that one-on-one relationship between consumer and brand. So this is going to get really, really interesting really quickly as we start to see these SaaS providers use AI. And so you can see the build, the tagging, and the experience on top of that. We're also going to be looking at counterfeit is a really big deal in the luxury space. So there are companies that are already coming out with the ability to use AI to authenticate product. Again, using those tags and triggers, and to be able to say our SaaS layer is being able to make sure that you have perfect authentication for the garments and accessories that you're producing. And that's really, really important in all markets. There are a lot of companies out there that are actually doing a really great job also on product recommendations. So using that learning model, using that learning engine to be able to give you a product recommenders is really, really important, because what we want, when obviously from an e-commerce perspective, we want to have people spend time with our brands. Time on site equals conversion, and also all the good things that we want. Engagement, loyalty, experience. These are things that everyone asks for when they want to have a decent shopping experience. And also, we want our brands to know us. So if we're looking for this, what are like products? So these AI product search recommender engines will get faster and better at recommending things which are exciting for us as consumers. So that gives us a good experience. And then also exciting for us as brands. So these are more examples of AI powered SaaS services that are working their way into our industry. And look, they're already there, but we're just going to see this enhancement of this experience. Right. I love this area, and we started to see a lot of it last year, this idea around synthetics. So Google is working on this a lot right now, and there are a lot of companies that are looking at being able to create synthetic people and synthetic products. So these are not real photos on these people. There's another page where I'll show you that there's a lot happening there. London College of Fashion is actually doing a tremendous job in also creating synthetic people, like manufactured AI manufactured models and AI manufactured apparel. So when we start to move into the digital space, if before, let's just take a year ago, when we were thinking about the metaverse and how we could sell products online digitally, we were in places like Decentraland and Roblox. So these are gamified atmospheres where we can have representations of products, but we wouldn't really say, I want to buy this Roblox t-shirt that looks like I'm wearing something from a Lego set. But when we start to use accelerated models that can do, that can make things more photorealistic, we're much more likely to transact. And so we call that the uncanny valley. The uncanny valley is when you see something and you don't believe it. And when you cross the uncanny valley, you see something and you do believe it. So all of a sudden, we're getting AI is accelerating AR to be able to give us hyper realistic representations of things that we would transact on. So here's some pretty good examples. This is on the left. This is a company called Resleeve. They do a great job. On this particular model, she's not a real person, and those aren't real clothes. So it's quite impressive to be able to think about this. This is actually, Resleeve is a design platform for people to be able to design digitally and have real hyper realistic representations for avatars and also for product creation. SETI, based in Madrid, but they have offices here in the US. SETI is really working on perfecting visual drape and weight of apparel so that designers can not only design in a Romans CAD or environment, but they can also see the representation of the weight and feel of the apparel that they're doing so that they can feel comfortable designing in 3D. And that can move into a bomb accurate tech pack. The one on the right, I just really like. It's a lot of fun. It's based on a site that came out a couple of years ago called This Person Does Not Exist. If you guys have a phone, you can grab it and see, you can look at it. And every time you refresh your screen, it brings up a person that doesn't exist, but is generated digitally. So someone had some fun with this and did something called These Sneakers Do Not Exist. And so they actually has a slider mechanism that you can play with. And it uses generative adversarial networks that is AI driven, that be able to give you something which is more trendy or less trendy. It's not a great design tool, but what's on the next slide is a great design tool. That one's a little bit more fun. What is a great design tool is these pretty powerful organizations. MIT, University of Pennsylvania, they have a really powerful textile department. Google, Max Planck Institute does a lot of biomorphic studies, anthropomorphic studies. This is a tool that it's called DragGAN. It's kind of a funny word, but what you'll be able to do is use a generative adversarial network, which is basically two computers that argue with each other about whether this is right or whether this is wrong, and they work together to get a better and better outcome of whatever it is. They're using this on images for a lot of different things, pharmaceuticals, industrial design, but in this particular application, and you can go onto their site and look at, they have some video representations of this, where you can take that red dot and you can drag that down and you can turn that skirt into a pair of pants. So so design will be as easy as dropping and dragging using a generative adversarial network, which is AI powered too. So design is changing tremendously, like literally as we speak. And right now, this is in the research phase, but it will be moving into the commercial models very, very soon. There's even actually, and I mentioned London College of Fashion, in New York a few months ago, they actually had an AI fashion week, and that was it was called Marcello. That was called DragGAN, DRAGGAN. So they're actually encouraging AI designers to design an AI more for the sort of avatar space, but you can see that all these are anatomically correct. They're not Roblox representations. They're believable, and these can be turned into digital tech packs as well. So if you guys aren't familiar with what London College of Fashion is doing, I would definitely look into that. Matthew Drinkwater is the principal there. They just opened a new facility just outside of London, which is state-of-the-art image capture and design representation. And so they're working really, really hard to make sure that we can design digitally and use these digital products in functional ways, online and offline.
Thank you, Barry, for this overview in fashion industry.
Absolutely.
And now I want to talk about one of the biggest challenges in the fashion. So I don't know if you are aware of that, but one of the biggest challenges in the fashion industry is the overstock problem. And one of the key things is how we can tackle this overstock problem, because actually now 40% of the goods produced are not sold full price. And if you see only the goods that are not sold at all, it represents 25% of the goods. And it represents 375 billion worth of clothes that is not sold each year. So it's a huge impact in environmental, it's a huge impact economically speaking. And the question is, how can brands avoid this unnecessary overstock and markdown and keep the margins high? So first question, why so much overstock? Actually, overstock is caused by mistakes that made all along the value chain, most of the time due to the lack of customer understanding. So first, during the assortment building, if you select products that don't match the consumer needs and desires. The second part, during the buying and the planning, if you plan the wrong quantities, resulting in overstock or entirely sold out. And on the third step, during the visual and merchandising and communication, if you bring consumer attention to the wrong product at the wrong time or at the wrong place. So how AI can help the fashion industry and the sportswear industry on this phase? Actually, AI supports fashion professionals at different steps of the value chain. So first, we will see how AI can help fashion professionals to select products that meet the needs and desire of consumer using actually the market data that can be available. And AI can help to plan the right quantities in order to avoid overstock and premature stock out, and to adjust the quantity regarding the specificity of the region, because actually the trends are not the same worldwide, can be different between US, in Europe and Asia, of course. And on the third step, how we can direct the consumer attention to the right product using local data. To do that, what we do at Heuritech is to forecast market demand through consumer images. We apply product-focused consumer computer vision on big data panel that are representative of each market. The goal is to have representative panel for each country, each region, in order to be able to quantify what the people wear worldwide and to anticipate the market shift up to 1 year in advance. So actually, AI can be a tool to surpass our limits. First, for example, if you have some insights, they can help you to bet on the right colors, the right prints and key attributes. If you have, for example, the insight around the tan color, you see that you have a growth predicted for spring 2024. It could be helpful to integrate this kind of insight in your collection to, after that, see the share of polo in Europe to adjust your product based on this insight. In the second aspect, for the stock, if you have some information about the growth, you can optimize the stock regarding the specificity of each region in order to avoid the overstock and the stock out. On the third step, if you have some specific insight, for example, in Europe, okay, you see the huge growth on the Lotto Preto basket sneakers, you will maybe put more sneakers on your e-commerce on front page in Europe, and for men and for women, you will maybe put more material mixed basket sneakers because you see a huge growth for the next year. After that, we provide a solution that help with AI and data to help to take better decision thanks to all the insights that are integrated into your platform, and you also have access to different mood boards to see how this trend is worn by some people in Europe, and to compare also with other countries. I will take an example to show you how a tool can surpass our limits and expand perspective, because very often as a human we have bias. For example, if you are you want to spot an interesting color trend, and your question is, what should I do for my brand? You have spotted this blush pink colors. Is it a good idea for all my consumers? And because I'm based in Europe, it's easy for me to see what's going on in Europe, and maybe I can think that everything is trendy because I see everywhere everyone spotting with this color. But is it the same thing in China and the US? If I look at the solution, we can see, okay, the blush pink is a trend that a comeback. It means that's in a trend that momentarily or for a longer period regaining some popularity, and we see that we predict a growth for the upcoming year. And this blush pink is already worn by edgy people, the people that are ahead of the trend, but also by the mainstream people. So it's really a trend that are present in Europe, and it's a trend that present mainly on tops. So for the Europe, it's a good idea to push blush pink on your collection. If you look at China, the trend is quite different. It's a trend that is fluctuating and is now mostly worn by edgy people. So it means that this trend is not really mainstream for now. And so it's a warning. Maybe I need to adjust my collection for the China market. And if I look at now for the US, I can see that now for the US, it's a watch out. It means that the trend is decreasing, and we predict a decrease by 6% for the upcoming years. So it's really different, and it's difficult to have this information because, of course, we have you can synthesize information for Europe if you come from Europe, but to have this overview about what's going on worldwide is quite difficult. And for example, in US, this trend is mainly represented on dresses. So you can see for this color on three different countries, a region, you have three different patterns. So it can really be really helpful to adjust your collection based on this region specificity. I can give you also an example for the how AI can amplify the creativity. You are maybe some interested about, okay, I want to create an oversized tops. But if I see this information on Europe, you can see that now the oversized top is quite decreasing for the upcoming years. So it's not maybe the best things to develop for your next collection plan. And you can have access to other information. For example, okay, tube stop. Now, tube stop is a huge growth in Europe, and we predict 29% of the growth from upcoming years. So maybe it's more interesting to integrate in your collection the tube tops. Of course, it's some data. It depends on the brand positioning, but it gives you an overview of how AI can be helpful to back sometimes intuition, to give you some idea about how the evolution of the trend, and also to give you this overview about the specificity of each region, because the trend can evolve differently regarding the region, and it's almost impossible, humanly speaking, to have this synthesis about what's going on worldwide. That's why it could be very interesting to back intuition with data, to have this data-driven mindset, to take better decision at each step of the value chain. When you want to create a new design, you can have some inspiration about what's going on in the upcoming trends. When you want to build your collection plan, to adjust regarding the specificity of the region, and after that, to also look at the data to be sure that you put the right product at the right time, at the right place. We have also different use cases, successful use cases, and how AI can be useful. For example, with Wolverine, with Burberry, we have helped to launch a capsule collection, and thanks to the data that we have and the insight that we had at Heuritech, the goal was to select the right color for the US market. And thanks to that, with the combination of our insight and this capsule collection at Wolverine, it enabled to acquire 70% of new consumer and give a huge success of this capsule collection. If you want also to have another example, we have also helped Dior to avoid early offer stock of Dior best-selling bags and to help them to launch with a huge success an iconic product several years ago, thanks to the data that we have collected and synthesized, and give them some confidence to, okay, this launch must be huge because we have all the data that confirm that it will be a huge success. And each time it's a mix between, okay, intuition and strategy about the brand and data that confirm or not this intuition to be sure that, okay, I take the right decision. So that's an overview about how we can use AI in the fashion industry. And maybe could be interesting, Barry, if you can have this sum up to now how to begin.
Absolutely. And look, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I'm really glad that you talked about efficiency and waste in our industry. It's a really big topic. We're being asked more and more to be responsible for product end of life. And we know that how our product is manufactured and what end of life looks like is a big deal. So we're talking about all the platforms that are around resale, circularity, mechanical recycling, chemical recycling. These are of great interest to us from an innovation perspective as well. And so, but one of the things that people talk about a lot is the waste that comes in the demand planning process. I mean, look, if we order something and we get 80% sell through, we're really happy. But what happens to the other 20%? So if we can start to use digital tools that will allow us to design more efficiently and order more efficiently and use tools like this for design and demand planning, then we can be more efficient. Being more efficient is not just something that we want to do because it's the responsible thing to do for planet Earth, which we must. But the other thing is we can save that 20%. Anything that we don't send to landfill or we don't discount or promote, that is more profit for us. So it makes it more profitable for us to have digitally enabled models that, and again, like we just go back to the thing I said in the beginning, nothing isn't digital now. So we're looking at an era where we're enhanced and defined by what we can do with data. And so data-rich solutions like this are really important for us for everything from managing our bottom lines to ESG. So I'm very, very glad that you mentioned that. And that was a big program that we were working on initiating with Heuritech on the demand planning side at Wolverine. So look, we put together a kind of a list of what we can do next. And something actually did come in the chat of how do we gain the benefits from AI to make the production processes faster, which I definitely want to talk about that for sure. But then that feeds into the question of, so there's this big thing called AI, where do I start? So I have a kind of a list that we put together on things which are ways to get going. One is, if you haven't tried GPT-3 or 4, get an account. It's free, and play around with it and understand the things around pre-trained transformers. There are other models out there that are working on these large language models that will be databases, but this is the one that's easiest to use. It is really important to understand what it can and can't do. When we're talking about pre-trained transformers and GPT-4 specifically that are out there that are generative AI, they're going out into the world and getting as much data as they can, and then giving you back the answer that is the most likely to be exciting for you. One thing we do have to remember with black box models, which is what GPT is we don't know where it gets the information from. And that means it can hallucinate. So it's always really important to make sure that you audit everything that you see and make sure that it makes sense. There was famously the guy, the lawyer who presented a case to a state Supreme Court, and he almost lost his, he almost got disbarred because 5 of the cases that he cited, he went to ChatGPT to find, and they weren't real case law. They actually weren't real case law at all. So he almost lost his job. But they chalked it up to, you tried. One of the things that's interesting about the models like Heuritech is that they're using data sets that are fixed. So they're auditable, and you can go back and figure out where that information is. So understand a little bit about white box, black box, try GPT-3. I also have, I mentioned NRF before. Go to trade shows. Go to trade shows where they're talking about how AI is being used. Fast Company just did an innovation festival in New York just a few weeks ago. NRF and Shop Talk are places where you're going to see SaaS providers that are using AI, so you can see how it's working into our industry. I love South by Southwest as the primary way. I call it Davos for the rest of us. So a primary way where people can understand what's happening in society, and AI is definitely happening in society. Yeah, I would always recommend that if you don't have an innovation function in your organization, you should have an innovation function so that they can start to try things, right? Things like AI, I joke around and I say it's not a side hustle. If we're going to be adding $4.4 trillion to the global GDP with AI, it's a job. It's a tool. It's a tool set. and it's really important that everybody know how to use it and where to use it. One thing that I suggest to everybody is establish a corporate AI policy. Ask, does your company have an AI policy, right? Where can you use it? Where can't you use it? Can you use it in legal? Can you use it to create new IP? Can you only use it in word processing or in marketing? It's really, really important to understand where you're allowed to use it or not, because there are legal implications to IP ownership, which are going to be really important. That's why the writer's strike lasted so long in Hollywood, because it was really around IP and the use of AI. Also, figure out where it lives in your company. Does AI live in the IT department? Is it a CEO function? Is it only in marketing? Is it an innovation project? Understand where AI lives and in your organization so you know where to use it. What's really important is using AI as part of your strategic planning process. So don't do AI for AI's sake. It's a waste of time. But use it in places where you know, and this goes to that question a few minutes ago. How do you apply it? Figure out, first of all, where's your biggest pain point? Is your biggest pain point providing virtual try-on, like 3D objects for virtual try-on for Amazon? Is your biggest pain point nearshoring and onshoring? Is your nearest pain point marketing, CAC costs, or last mile problems? Apply AI to the biggest problem that you have, and then try to beta it. A/B test whatever it is the solution you have, because there's a lot of people that will give you solutions now, and then A/B test it and see where that works for you. Beta it and then move forward. I am a fan of Heuritech. That's why I'm on with Tony. We've been working together for several years. The model works. And so I'm happily chatting with you guys about what they do and what the rest of the industry is using. And also, if you don't have any of these competencies, get a digital innovation consultant. Talk to people like, I don't know, there's a company I like, the company at Sci Futures. Sci Futures is a guy called Ari Popper, and he will come into your organization and use science fiction to game out what it is your company actually needs to do, and then help you with the specific solutions along the way. So these are some practical ways to start to get your toe in the water, and then back on to Tony and some questions.
Yeah, thank you, Barry. It was just one slide to say, okay, to finish this presentation, to say, okay, actually, it's not AI that won't take your job. It's somebody using AI that will take your job. It's a sentence done by Richard Baldwin. I think it's somewhat quite the presentation we have done. It's key that everyone understand how AI can help the job. It's not just AI that need to be just on the data on the AI team. AI can need to be used by the CEO, the merchandiser, to understand how I can improve my job. I can evolve thanks to AI to be focused on more strategic task and to let's say put a repetitive task in the hand of AI, and after that to have more and more more and more influence and more power thanks to AI. Maybe actually we have a lot of different questions, so we can say where is this data coming from? Is this social media? Actually, it's not only social media. What we do at Heuritech is to develop a representative panel for each country. It's key to have this information to, have the right split about clients, customer segmentation, to have the people that are ahead of the trend, that are the first people to wear the new trends, but also the trendy people that propagate the trend, they influence the voice of customer and the mainstream people. And we have developed this solution to integrate a lot of data to be representative, and after that to provide some market data that is really linked to the people that were on real.
Tony, perhaps you can answer Milo's question. I think it's a great one around the external cultural parameters and taxonomy, and around what the social media aspect of Heuritech actually does, because that is, I think it's a really important part.
Yeah. Actually, it's the goal is we have developed internally a methodology to be representative, not to think we account only the trends that are popping up in social media, and we have also developed internally our image recognition technology to integrate new trend, new attributes. If you see on a fashion show a new thing that it's necessary to recognize, we are able to train our algorithm and to integrate that, and to after that forecast the new trend. It's key to develop that internally and to have all the aspect of that, and to after that combine that we do with some clients, to combine this market data with their internal sales data, to after that be able to increase the accuracy of the sales forecast of the brand. Because at the end, the key thing is to improve, as we said, as we saw earlier, the sales through. And to do that, it's a combination of our external data that is representative for each country, and their internal data, the sales data, to do that. Recreation.
I'd love to answer Marcello's question real quick. I thought it was a great one. The role of impact, the impact of Midjourney on fashion and design. So I was fortunate enough to be able to go to the Google Cloud Studio here in New York a couple of weeks ago. And if you haven't seen it yet, it's very much in sort of background beta. It's what they're calling Duet, and Duet is Google's answer to what Bing is using as an assistant in Word and sort of PowerPoint image documents. I had a chance to try Duet, and when I say AI is everywhere, I mean AI is everywhere. So if you're in a Google Doc, or you're writing an email, you're in Gmail. If you say, type me an email to my boss for a great Christmas party in December in Chicago, it's perfect, and they'll do it in your voice and your word, and you can say I want it to be 1,000 words or 20 words. When I tried their text to image generation in slides, it was unbelievable. I mean, I have to tell you guys, I want it right now. It was amazing, and you could do it in any kind of style: cartoon style, black and white style, watercolor style, and it takes about 8 seconds, so it's long, but it is unbelievable. So when we're talking about things like Midjourney, we're talking about things like as simple as really literally on your desktop. We're going to see AI changing things radically. I'll stick to the ethos of this slide, though, that no matter whether it's AI generated or not, we're going to need the human to be able to make that final distinction about what it is that we want to do with those images, whether it's auto design or t-shirt design. It doesn't matter. We will definitely need that, but these are really unbelievable tools. And I know the big question at South by Southwest this year was, will AI take my job? And that's this slide answers that. And everyone says it won't. But it will be able to speed things along. AI is an accelerant. It's gasoline lit on fire, and on every aspect of our industry. And I do think it's really exciting. And I know a lot of people are going to be experts, not just in prompt engineering, but experts in being able to manipulate the tools to get amazing things out of it. So that's how I would answer that question, Marcello.
Yeah, and actually, Midjourney can create a very beautiful design, very nice design, but it's very difficult also if you want to adjust slight details, to adjust very precise details. It's quite difficult to directly do that with Midjourney. I think more and more we'll have some specialized generative AI on, let's say, fashion design to be very precise, because very often when you see generative AI, it can do a very good proof of concept, but when we want to use that on a daily basis, you see that it's not so easy, especially for the fashion design, because everything is on the details. So I think we will have also maybe a mid-journey specialized for the fashion design to, after that, be sure that, okay, I want just to modify this this sleeve. I just want to modify this that. It's not so magical for everything. Of course, it speed speed up the process, but you need also to have specialized tools even for the fashion design, I think. Do I into the future? For the question about how far into the future the trend that AI detect is reliable, actually, for now, we can predict trends up to 12 months. And in our roadmap, the goal is to release a new forecast model that predict the trends up to 24 months to actually answer the fact that actually, if indeed brands are planning collection in 12 to 18 months. So that's in our plan. And actually, the accuracy for now is 90% of our trends are reliable. And that's the threshold. And that's why for now it's for 12 months, and we will develop that for the upcoming months.
The IP question from Roland is a good one. Look, that's the Wild West right now, and that's what we're actually really trying to figure out. So I'm going to punt on that one because the future is not known. Again, I'll go back to the writer strike in Hollywood. I'm from Southern California, so that was a really big deal because they wanted to make sure that that anything that they couldn't replace script that was generated on AI, or if writers used AI, that the studios couldn't say you used AI and so we're not going to pay you. It's a very, very gray area right now. So we have to really see. We know from a design point of view, what's also going to be very tricky is when we're patenting designs in our industry, there's utility designs and utility patents and design patents are really easy to get around anyways. So this is going to be very, very tricky for us for sure. Sorry, I don't have a better answer, but I can explain why it's complicated.
Maybe a last question about Aman. They said, okay, to start career in fashion marketing. Actually, I teach at Sciences Po in marketing, and I teach AI in marketing. So if you are interested, I think what is key for if you want to start a career in fashion marketing is to have this two expertise. Okay, of course, in fashion and marketing, to understand how does it work, but also to understand how data can help, but on a concrete use cases. So to define, okay, I want to have more insight to create a new product. So what kind of tools are available on that to help me to take a better decision? Actually, I think now on the goal is to back all the decisions that we have with some data. It's not to only be driven by data, of course, because you have some intuition. Everything starts from intuition, some ideas, and after that, confront this idea about the reality of the data to say, okay, I am confident on that, and I will push like that. So to have this expertise of course, fashion and marketing with understanding about how works the data and AI works for the fashion industry. I teach at Sciences Po. It's a French university in Paris for marketing for the marketing part. So thank you again, Barry, for this beautiful presentation. Thank you to everyone for listening to us, and see you next time.
Thanks everyone for joining. I really appreciate the conversation, and it's great to talk to everybody. Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, Barry. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.